the day you learned the animal that could kill you. The games you played as a child were never just games. Every time you crouched low in the grass and held your breath until your chest burned, you were not playing. You were rehearsing to survive something that could kill you in seconds. 300,000 years ago, on the grasslands of Africa, a child who could not read the ground did not always live long enough to become an adult. A lion can cross 30 meters of open ground before you ever hear it move. It is early morning. The air still smells like last night's fire. You are about 8 years old, kneeling in the dirt beside your father, and for once you are not being told to sit still and watch. He presses his own hand flat into the sand beside a print left there sometime in the night. This is not the first lesson like this. For as long as you can remember, he has been teaching you one track at a time, the way his own father taught him, out here where the grass gives way to bare, packed earth near the waterhole. Decades from now, on the other side of the world, a young researcher named Louis Liebenberg will leap university and go live with hunter-gatherers in the Kalahari Desert, hoping to understand something about how the human mind actually works. What he finds there is the exact thing your father already knows without ever having a name for it. To the trackers, Liebenberg studies, reading a footprint is never guesswork. It is closer to solving a puzzle with your entire body. The depth of a print tells you the weight of the animal. The spacing between steps tells you its speed. A turned toe, a dragged heel, a broken blade of grass. Each detail is a sentence written into the ground. And a skilled tracker can read an entire paragraph of what happened hours before they ever arrived. Liebenberg would later describe this as unfolding in layers. First, simply recognizing what kind of animal made a print. Then, following a trail as it moved across changing ground, sand to rock to grass where the signs grow faint and harder to see. And finally, the hardest layer of all, predicting where an animal that left no visible trail at all was most likely headed next, based on nothing but knowledge of how that animal thinks and moves. Your father has already spent years teaching you the first layer. The other two, the ones that could one day save your life without a single visible clue in front of you, are still ahead. Liebenberg will spend the rest of his career arguing that this kind of tracking was one of the very first forms of scientific thinking humans ever practiced. Built into the daily business of staying alive long before anyone wrote the word science down. But not every mark in the dust tells the same kind of story, and this is the part your father needs you to understand before anything else. His finger moves to a second print beside the first one, smaller, rounder, with no claw marks showing at the tips. A cat keeps its claws pulled in until the exact moment it needs them. A dog or a hyena drags faint claw lines into the dirt with almost every step it takes. That one detail, claws or no claws, is the line between an animal you might one day hunt and an animal that is, right now, capable of hunting you. Think about that difference the next time you glance at a text message and instantly know, before you even read a word, whether the tone is friendly or something else entirely. You are still doing exactly what your father is teaching you to do here. Reading small signals fast because somewhere in you, a slower reaction once meant not surviving the morning. And on this stretch of the world, unlike almost anywhere else your descendants will eventually wander into, the animals themselves have not forgotten what a human is. Lions, hyenas, elephants, buffalo, all of them have shared this land with your ancestors for millions of years, which means they have also learned, slowly and carefully, to be wary of you in return. It is part of the reason so much of Africa's largest wildlife survives into the modern world, while on almost every continent humans eventually reach afterward, from Australia to the Americas. The biggest animals vanish within a few thousand years of the first human footprints showing up. Scientists still debate exactly how much of that pattern comes from human hunting and how much from a changing climate. But here, in this place, the predators had time on their side. They are not careless, they are patient, and they have had millions of years to learn exactly how dangerous or how edible a human being can be. And children have always been the easiest edible option on that list. Long before your own kind existed, a small skull belonging to a 3-year-old member of an earlier human relative was found in a cave in South Africa, a discovery known today as the tongue child. For decades, scientists argued about what had killed that child. The answer turned out to be sitting inside the skull itself. Puncture marks in the eye sockets, matched decades later by researcher Lee Berger to damage caused by the talons and beak of a large crowned eagle. The same kind of bird that still snatches monkeys out of African forests today. That child never saw the danger coming from above. You, at least, have been given tracks in the sand as a warning. Not every child in this story gets one. Your father's whole body goes still. Imagine kneeling in the dirt and watching the person meant to protect you turn to stone without making a single sound. The track in front of you is fresh. Round pads, no claw marks, wide enough that your father's entire spread hand cannot cover it edge to edge. He does not speak. He raises 2 fingers low against his own leg, a signal you have seen him use before, but never quite like this, never with his jaw locked this tight. Behind you, the wolf that has grown up at your side since before you can remember goes rigid too, ears locked forward. A low sound building in its chest that is not quite a growl and not quite a whine. Your father's free hand finds your shoulder and pushes, gently but firmly, backward, away from the print and whatever left it only hours earlier, somewhere close enough to still matter. You move the way he taught you without ever calling it a lesson, heel first, weight low, eyes never leaving the tall grass to your left. Somewhere behind you, your sister has already stopped mid-step with a half-filled basket of roots still in her hands. Reading the sudden silence of the whole group faster than any words could explain it. This is the same circuitry firing in you today when you walk to your car alone at night and suddenly notice every shadow before you can even explain why. Your brain has not updated its threat detection system in 300,000 years. It is still quietly running the exact program your father installed in you that morning in the dirt. But that morning is not the day you actually meet the animal that left that print. That day is still waiting for you, years further down this same path, and when it finally arrives, it will leap something on you that never fades. For now, all you carry back to camp is the fear and the training that comes wrapped inside it. Back at camp, your grandmother is grinding roots beside the fire with your aunt, the woman everyone comes to when a wound needs cleaning or a fever needs breaking. Neither of them asks what happened out there. They can read it on your father's face just as clearly as he read that print in the sand. Your clan's leader, the man whose word ends every argument before it starts, has one unbending rule that every child learns before almost anything else. Nobody wanders past the tree line alone. Not children, not proven hunters, nobody. Rules like this are not written down anywhere. They do not need to be. They are enforced by the simple fact that the people who broke them generations back are the reason the rule exists at all. And the training itself never really stops, even when it looks like nothing more than play. The mock chases through camp, the hiding games you play with your sister among the rocks, the mornings spent throwing blunt sticks at a target while your rival tries to outdo you every single time. None of it is idle time. Anthropologist Sheena Lou Levy and her colleagues have studied this exact pattern across dozens of hunter-gatherer societies still living today, from the Hadza of Tanzania to the San of the Kalahari. Children are handed small, working versions of adult tools almost as soon as they can grip them: miniature digging sticks, tiny bows, and their play quietly rehearses the precise skills that will keep them alive later. Tracking, throwing, freezing on command, reading danger before it fully arrives. What looks to an outsider like a child simply having fun is, underneath, a body being trained for a world that does not give second chances. Think about the last time you flinched at a shape moving in a dark hallway before you had even registered what it was. That reaction did not come from nowhere. It came from a very long line of children just like you, kneeling in the dirt, learning to read the ground before they were even old enough to understand why it mattered so much. Your father brings you back to camp that day without a single word about what you saw. That silence is its own kind of lesson. Out here, fear is not something you talk through. It is something you carry quietly, so that the next time you come across round pads with no claw marks pressed into the sand, your body already knows what to do before your mind has caught up to the danger at all. That night, your grandfather tells a story by the fire, the way he tells every story, using it to teach without ever sounding like he is teaching anyone anything. He speaks of a hunter, years before you were born, who once ignored tracks just like the ones you saw that morning, certain he already knew everything the ground had to tell him. The story never says exactly what happened to that hunter afterward. It does not need to. Everyone sitting around the fire already understands, and so, young as you are, do you, sitting closer to the flames than usual tonight. One frightening encounter, even one you only see the evidence of and never the animal itself, is often enough to rewire how carefully you move through the world for the rest of your life. Modern researchers who study how fear is learned have found the same thing happens inside a human brain today in a single afternoon. It does not take years of repetition to learn caution around something dangerous. Sometimes it only takes once, and the memory of a single track in the sand is enough to last a lifetime. This is why an adult today can drive past the exact intersection of a single bad accident from years ago and still feel their hands tighten slightly on the wheel, with no memory of deciding to react that way at all. The lesson was written once, and the body simply kept it. This is the quiet weight underneath every survival lesson in a world without hospitals, without fences, without anyone coming to rescue you if you read the ground wrong. A child's education out here is not measured in what they can recite back to an adult. It is measured, plainly and permanently, in whether they are still alive at the end of the season. Every game, every fireside story, every silent hand signal from a father kneeling in the dirt is part of one long, unbroken lesson. Passed down so many times across so many generations that it eventually stops feeling like a lesson at all and simply becomes instinct, folded so deep into you that you will never remember learning it. So the next time your whole body tenses before you consciously know why, or you catch yourself scanning a parking lot without meaning to, remember that reaction was not built yesterday. It was built by a child kneeling in the dirt 300,000 years ago, learning the difference between a track that meant food and a track that meant run. But the lesson from that morning was only the warning. The real test, the day you finally stood face to face with the animal behind those prints, was still ahead of you, and it would change you in a way no lesson in the dirt ever could. If this changed the way you think about your own instincts, subscribe. Your ancestral story is only just getting started,